you do what I do. When someone puts a wall in front of you, you go back in your office, you put on your rhino suit. You know what a rhino is? It's a big animal, big fucking horns, the big shoulders. Like, it's a huge animal. You know, a rhino, a big fucking rhino. And we're like, yeah, I understand a rhino. And it's like, go in your office, put on your rhino suit, and you charge through those walls. And we're like,
I like beer. I want beer.
we might as well start and drink a beer while we talk. But this first one, you said you wanted to try some mixed culture beer. This is farmhouse beer, very inspired by the Belgian tradition. This one is actually a really cool project. It's got wine grapes in it. It has Riesling grapes in it. But the thing that makes this cool is that everything in this beer came from one farm in Oregon. So they grew the barley, they grew the hops, they grew the grapes, and then we fermented it using the yeast that was on the grapes. So like everything is from this one farm. So that's why it's called single origin. Really cool farm, Goshi Farms in Oregon, but they've been growing hops for over 100 years.
Okay, we have a Hantverksbira Podcast. Welcome. We have an episode in English because we have the opportunity to meet Doug from
Yes.
from Alesong Brewing and Blending.
Yes.
You're in Stockholm.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on the podcast, and to all of Sweden for hosting. This is amazing. I've never been to Sweden before. This has been really fun. We're out last night. I had I forget what it's called, but the street food that has the hot dog and the shrimp and the mashed potatoes and all of it in a wrap. And
in a wrap,
I was like, this is the craziest thing I've ever eaten. They're like, who came up with this? But it's been so great. That's
fun. Actually local for Stockholm.
It's a Stockholm only.
Yeah, in Gothenburg we don't have it.
Oh, okay.
We have it, but then we call something called half special or half special with the hot dog and mashed potatoes.
Yes.
And shrimp salad as well. It's crazy. A lot of calories.
Yeah, right, that's what I needed in the moment.
Whatever. Back to beer. But Alesong Brewing and Blending. We haven't seen you in Sweden. What I know, I heard someone, a beer guy who has bought some bottles from a Danish web shop a couple of years ago. But but you said you were more or less all over the world.
Yeah, so we're a very small brewery. We're based in Oregon in the Willamette Valley. On the west coast of the United States, but we only make barrel-aged beer. So it's kind of very long production times. It takes 1 to 3 years to make a beer, and it's a specialty product. It's a little more expensive, and we've won a lot of awards. We've won an award at Great American Beer Festival every year that we've been in business, 10 years straight, which is, I think, the third longest streak in the country, which is pretty cool. But because of that, we're able to sell. People respect what we do, and there are people who really appreciate some of these styles of beer in other countries around the world. And in spite of us being very small, people are reaching out and saying, hey, can we get some of this beer in Korea or in Sweden? Yeah. And so we actually just submitted a tender for the state monopoly, and we will be in...
okay, you did.
We have 3 beers that will be in the Systembolaget in November and December. So
because I did search today, but I couldn't find it.
No, it's not in there yet. The beer we will get to, we'll try. Rhino Suit is kind of our original flagship milk stout in bourbon barrels, and all of our beer, because it's a little higher end, we're really focused on getting people to think about beer as something they can have with a nice meal. It doesn't always have to be wine, something to be enjoyed, savored in a kind of a smaller portion size. And so everything we make is always in these kind of bigger, fancier wine-looking bottles.
Yeah. Expensive-looking bottles as well.
Exactly. Well, exactly. Yeah. So that somebody doesn't accidentally help themselves to one of your expensive beers in the fridge thinking it was normal, right? But for the first time ever, we put a beer in a can for the Systembolaget.
It's the first time for Systembolaget.
So this is a Sweden only. If you want a can of Alesong, you have to be Swedish.
The Systembolaget is really keen over cans.
Yes, they
nowadays.
are.
Nowadays.
And initially we're like, we can't do the cans. It's not right. But they're like, we'll put it in all of the liquor stores in Sweden, and so it will be in front of a lot of customers, and this will be a great way to be entering the Swedish market. And so we said, well, you know what, let's try it. And it's pretty cool. I mean, it's a new thing for me to look at and be like, whoa, Alesong in a can, but it's cool.
And it's also, I mean, gives you quite plenty of space for the graphic design on the can.
Exactly.
It's quite cool.
Yeah, and it was a fun project because I do kind of all of our labels and stuff, and these are very traditional. Like all of our beers look very similar in the bottles, and so this was a little more kind of a chance to be like a little more fun with it, right?
Yeah, it's quite different from the bottles.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're quite young brewery.
10 years old.
10 years old.
Yes.
So and it was you, your brother, and a buddy of you.
Yeah. So really, like my brother is the one who kind of pulled the whole thing together. He was working with my third business partner, Matt Van Wyk, at another brewery in our town, Oakshire Brewing. And they were doing a little bit of barrel aging at that brewery. But as it is in most of the United States and probably craft breweries in Europe too, you make IPA all day long because that's what pays the bills. And then if you want to do these sort of fun projects, you do them on nights and weekends. And so the big leap of faith was, hey, what if we take these fun projects and we just make that the whole brewery? And I think, we've all acknowledged that we will never be a massive brewery making millions of dollars doing this, but it allows us to do something very specific, very cool, and like really, really focus on it and be good at it. It's not the side project, it is the project. And so Brian and Matt were working together, and then they pulled me in. I had a little bit of a background in the wine industry and more on the business side, and so was able to help with some of that while they kind of took care of most of the beer making. So I'm not super responsible for the deliciousness in these glasses. I help with all the blending stuff, but generally those kudos go to Brian predominantly and Matt a little bit. But
is this kind of beer, was it like a fancy style of yours before you started up Alesong, or? I mean, this is, the Belgian classic styles and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I think we take a lot of inspiration from some of the classic Belgian breweries, right? Cantillon and Tilken, and these guys are amazing. But, when I say we make only barrel-aged beer, it's not all farmhouse beer. It's not all sour beer. We also make some really big, bold, malt-forward beers that are aged in, rum barrels, whiskey barrels, bourbon barrels. So kind of the full spectrum. And what that does is it allows us the flexibility to create so many different flavor profiles. So we have one beer that's really popular that is actually inspired by a margarita that's like a Gosa style beer with extra salt, with agave, with lime, with orange, and then aged in tequila barrels. So you end up tasting it and you're like, is this a margarita? Like, what am I drinking? But it's so fun, the different things that we can do with these beers.
Must be even hard to pick out every element of the taste in that kind of beer.
Yeah, and we're trying to kind of replicate all of the elements in that obviously classic cocktail. And surprisingly, it tastes a lot like a margarita. But what's really fun about it is when you have someone come into the tasting room and they're like, I don't understand what this is that you're doing, right? Because they're like beer and they're thinking lager or IPA. And they're like, why don't you have that? And you're like, well, have you had a margarita? Oh yeah, I know what a margarita is. And then you can put that in front of them. Or like this next beer that I'm gonna pour for you is a beer with red wine grapes in it. Okay. So we're surrounded by wineries in the Willamette Valley. We can give somebody one of these beers and it has so much wine character in it, and they may be like, oh, I drink wine, I kind of understand these flavors. But so this one is called Bright Copper Kettles. It's part of our wine grape series. All of the names on these are inspired by that song in Sound of Music. We had Raindrops on Roses and all these things. But this is a sour beer that was aged for about a year in our cellar, kind of a light, like blonde sour base. And then we blended it together and added crushed and destemmed Malbec grapes. And Malbec basically is an Argentinian varietal that you only get in South America, but like there's a little bit in Oregon. And so as Brian was out looking for for grapes for the year, he found this source for Malbec, and he's like, oh, that's crazy. Like, you almost can't get this anywhere in the United States. We have to do a beer with Oregon Malbec. And so this has so many of those like big, bold red wine flavors. It's actually about 50-50 fermentable sugars from the Malbec and from the malted barley.
Yeah.
But a really interesting beer, kind of like a blurring of the two worlds.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the aroma is, I mean, I find like cassis and so on, maybe in the aroma. And it's not at all like if you have like a Cantillon or something in the same color.
Yeah.
It's totally different in the aroma.
Yeah. And it's just like deep, dark red.
Definitely. It's a little thin head, maybe.
Yeah.
You can.
With this sour beer, it's so hard to have the head that like sticks around like that. The acidity kind of kills it. But this is a really interesting one with a lot of kind of fattier meat dishes. The acidity helps cleanse your palate a little bit. The red wine, the tannins kind of stand up to the big, bold flavors if you were going to do it, with a duck or a pork or something. Like, it's a really fun one to do with food.
I don't think I ever had a beer like this.
It's very unique.
It's very unique. And I was a little bit afraid of it when you poured it.
Yeah.
But no, not anymore. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to me that there aren't more people using wine grapes in beers, because there are so many people making beer with fruit in it.
Yeah.
And a wine grape is a fruit. Not only that, it's a fruit that makes delicious alcohol. Like, why would we not?
Yeah.
And we're surrounded by wineries, so it's easy for us, obviously, in the Willamette Valley versus somebody who lives, in Sweden. I don't think they grow wine grapes, but
they do, but not in this quality.
Yeah.
But do you more or less only work with local ingredients?
We try to work with local ingredients as much as possible, but don't necessarily limit ourselves. We want to make, our primary goal is to make the best beer we can. Usually working with local ingredients is the best way to do that, because they're fresher.
Yeah.
You can work with the grower to pick the peaches when they're ripe, right? You're not shipping them across the country, or you get the cherries when you want them, right? It's a much better approach than trying to get processed fruit that was frozen or whatever. So we try to do that a lot. But for example, there's a lot of wonderful specialty malt that is grown in Germany, and we use some of that. So, it's kind of, the goal is more local, but if we can do something to make the beer better, we will.
Yeah, but I mean, it's quite a big difference between fresh fruit and dried malt.
Exactly.
So I mean,
exactly.
Maybe it's not local, but it doesn't affect the taste that much.
Yes. And we did a beer. We just won a gold medal at GABF for this beer last week, but with pineapples in it. And obviously, there are no pineapples in Oregon, so that was not local.
Not even in Oregon.
No.
Not in Gothenburg either.
No, and Oregon. I mean, we're incredibly blessed because Oregon grows almost everything, but not pineapples. So those were imported. But that was a cool project. We took a beer that was aged in tequila barrels, and then we roasted fire roasted these pineapples and added that with some chili peppers. And so you get this fire roasted pineapple chili sour beer. It's super cool. And that was aged in tequila barrels. So it was kind of like a fun Mexican inspired beer that we did with some friends of ours at another brewery called Chicha. But that was a fun project.
Well, what about the name? It sounds quite poetic or something, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, Alesong, well, the first thing I would tell you is it's really hard to pick a name for something that somebody hasn't already taken.
I can imagine.
But we really like the inspiration here. All of us, the three of us, really like music, have played music in certain ways, but we really like the sort of the image of the way that like a composer puts a song together, right? It's like each different element adds to the song, where like the symphony sounds better than the violin by itself, right? And so as we go through, blending is a super important part of our process, and it's a big piece of what makes our beers more consistent than most of the small breweries that do, sort of one barrel aged project a year, and they have 3 barrels in their cellar. Like, the thing that is really useful for us is we have hundreds of barrels in our cellar. And so blending is a big piece of it. And you pick this barrel has the aroma characteristics that you want. This one has some of the mouthfeel that you want. And then if we want to, brighten it up a little bit, we pick this one that has high acid. And so you can kind of put them together the way a chef would put something together. And like, as you add them together, you end up with sort of the symphony that is like the flavors that come together. So that was kind of the inspiration there.
Cool. I can tell you this was interesting. I just wonder how it should be presented, like a bar in Sweden, like a pub or something. I mean, we have pubs like you were visiting yesterday, maybe Oliver Twist, for example.
And I do think they have this at Oliver Twist.
They do.
But it's a very unique beer. I really love this beer with food. I think it goes so well with food. And there's only a handful of cases of this beer, so this won't be everywhere. But I've been talking to them, and hopefully they can get this into some cool restaurants, because I think the way to present it is with dinner for someone who's having an interesting meal and wants to add something really cool, another piece of interesting alcohol to that meal.
How is it? Is it okay to pair with like umami dishes as well, or?
Yeah, for sure.
For like a risotto with mushrooms or something?
I think that would be great. Yeah, I think like this little bit of acidity is super helpful for something that's kind of creamy and fatty like that. And then anything that you would pair kind of a red wine with, like, will work pretty well with this, I think.
Interesting. I read that you say that you're like artisan brewery. In Sweden, we more or less only use craft so far.
Sure.
So, but there's the discussion if craft has been like some wasted due to all craft washing.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard, right? Like,
it's very hard.
Everybody uses the same words, and it starts to be that none of these words mean anything.
No.
And so you're like, I'm more craft than you are craft, or more artist, and you're like, what does any of this mean?
And the spiciest label is more craft than the other one.
Exactly. So it's really hard. But I think, what we're trying to capture is that, like, really the way we make beer, because it's in barrels, it's not a perfectly controlled environment. There's a level of artistry to it that is necessary. Like, every beer is different. Every barrel has a different character. Putting those together becomes really like about picking and choosing the flavors and putting them together like a chef does, right? And so you have a restaurant that you love, it's because your palate agrees with the palate of that chef, right? And so that chef has put his spin on everything, and you love it. And so there's this artistry, and you connect with his art. And I think we really like to think of ourselves in a similar way, because it's about kind of, all of our beers are different. We release beers basically in batches. So we release 4 beers every quarter, and it's kind of like this batch, and when it's gone, that was it.
It's gone.
Right? Like, we can't exactly, like, we've made Rhino Suit 10 years now, and it's always similar, but it's different every year because the temperature is different, the barrels are different, just like the way the fermentation and the aging happens, like, everything is always just a little bit different every time, right? And so what our customers are doing is basically they're trusting that, like, they have liked the beers that we have released in the past. They believe that, like, what we like and what we think tastes good, they also think tastes good. And so they trust us for this next round. And so it's very much like a relationship with an artist, where you're like, I love this artist. Like, the new album just came out from these guys. I know I'm gonna like it because I like all their music, but it's not the same as the last album.
And if you don't like it, you're biased anyway for that artist or that brewery. So.
Yeah, exactly.
But have you also tried to age your beer in bottles as well? I mean, after the bottle, it's the finished one, you put it in your cellar as well and see how it develops?
Yeah, definitely. And one of the nice things for these beers, for export, if we're going to sell it to Sweden, is that, your IPA tastes better. If you have a really good Swedish IPA, it's always going to taste better than a really good American IPA, because it didn't spend a month on a boat.
No.
Our beers are much more sort of durable, right? They will stand the month on the ocean. It's just kind of continuing to sort of evolve, and those flavors don't break down quite as much as hops do, right? So for us, I think it is a really interesting opportunity to sell in some of these places because there aren't a bunch of breweries in all of these countries that are doing exactly the same thing that we're doing, and we are not sort of hurt by the freshness piece of it.
No.
So like if I'm here in Sweden, and don't tell the BA I said this, but like I will probably drink Swedish IPA because it's going to be fresh and delicious. But I think some of the barrel-aged stout, it's going to cross the ocean and still taste just as good when it gets here. Yeah. And so I think that's a really fun, it's an advantage we have a little bit with this style.
But do you do kegs as well, or only bottles?
We do kegs. I don't think we sent any kegs to Sweden, but we do kegs. Mm-hmm. I
mean, it's not a volume product.
It's not a volume product. It does work at certain bars, and probably a bar like Oliver Twist could pour it. But you have to have a bar that has the clientele that wants to drink enough of it so the keg doesn't sit there for a month.
Of course.
Where it's much easier to have a bottle, and then if the bottle goes out 1 bottle a week, it's kind of fine. You don't have like the keg just sitting there blocking one of your tap lines. But
should also be great for the bar called Akkurat in Stockholm as well.
I've heard of this bar. I need to go check it out.
You need to.
I've heard it's like a good
very large cuvée cellar with a lot of Belgian-style beers that are aged for like 10, 15, 20 years. And it's unique for the whole world, I would say.
I'm so used to pouring out of bottles. It's harder to pour out of a can.
No worries. It's not us to clean here today. So this is a special edition. Is it a Swedish edition only due to the can?
This is the Swedish edition Rhino Suit. It's actually its own batch. We made a specific batch to fulfill the order from the Systembolaget, but it is the only beer that's ever been put in a can from Alesong. So that's kind of fun. If you're in Sweden, you get to have Alesong in a can. This is Rhino Suit. It's kind of our flagship Imperial Milk Stout, aged in bourbon barrels. This is aged in Heaven Hill bourbon barrels. That's kind of our go-to. Has some nice bourbon character without being overpowering whiskey. It's a chocolatey-based beer. It has lactose in it, so it's a little sweet, but it's not syrup sweet. There's a couple of breweries around this area that make really syrupy stouts, and we're not quite in that category. We want, again, it to be drinkable. But this beer is kind of has a funny. I mean, it's called Rhino Suit, and the picture on the can is a rhino wearing a suit. So this beer has kind of a funny origin story. We were when we were looking for investors for the brewery starting out. My two partners and I were meeting with a very very successful winemaker that I used to work with in Sonoma, who's had a couple of wineries that have had great success. And we were talking to him about our business plan and getting his advice and seeing if he wants to invest. And he was basically, he's like, yeah, this all sounds good. This all sounds good. But are you sure you're ready to do a business? And we're like,
can you ever be?
I think so.
I guess so. Yeah.
And he says, well, you know what business is all about? And we're like, no, I don't know. Business is just about people putting walls in front of you. All day, every day, just walls in front of you, one wall after another. And we kind of are like, wow, this is not so inspiring, right?
It sounds funny, yeah.
Yeah, like maybe we don't want to open a business. He says, well, you know what you do? Okay, that sounds good. And he's like, very animated and very excited. And he ended up investing, and he's been a great mentor for us. But we walked out of that meeting, and we're like, that was crazy, and that has to be a beer name, the Rhino Suit, right? It's such a good beer name, and so this was like the first beer that we brewed after we got our TTB license. Like all the licensing is such a pain in the ass, and so you finally get through that.
Even in the US, yeah.
And I'm sure it's hard everywhere, but as soon as we finally got through that, I mean, it took 6 months, right? And you finally get through the licensing. We got our license, and we're like, that was the first big wall that we charged through. This has to be Rhino students. So this is the first beer we made, and it's been a favorite. So, you know, we kind of tweak the recipe every year. We get different barrels, but like keep coming back to it because it's one of our favorites, and it's become somewhat of a flagship, and now it's the only beer in cans.
Yeah, it's very bold aroma.
Very bold, sort of milk chocolate.
Yeah.
Some vanilla from the barrels, a little bit of bourbon, but not like over the top boozy.
No, not at all.
And you know, it's 11%, so it's a big beer, but very smooth.
Not boozy at all. It's, as you say, smooth, almost easy drinking.
Yeah,
And this-
which is dangerous. And then it's in a can, so it looks like, well, maybe I'll just have one. It's like, you know, it's like it's a Czech dark lager. I don't know.
a cool can over there on the run. Yeah, it's really, really nice. Do you pair this with like a dessert, like a chocolate cake or something, or?
You know, it worked really well with the dessert. I actually think, you know, blue cheese would be really nice with this.
Yeah.
Something savory, even like, you know, a steak I think you could do with this beer, kind of depending on the mood. I probably wouldn't do that on a barbecue on a hot summer day, but like today, you know, it's kind of rainy and, you know, maybe you're having a roast at your house and you're like, I'll sip on this with the roast. It would be very good. But yeah, I mean, and then obviously like it's almost like it's chocolate cake already, right?
Yeah,
and so
it's
you
almost,
could you just have your dinner and then this is dessert.
Yeah. What is it called? The chocolate cake with it's liquid inside. Fondant, is that its name?
Oh, I know
You cut it and then the chocolate just pours
just
out.
oozes. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't
More or
know
less
the
like
name,
that.
but yeah,
that
yeah.
taste, yeah. But the export for Sweden, do you see like Sweden like a long-term market, or is it for just now for like experimental market, or?
Well, I mean, we would love to sell more beer in Sweden. I think we're excited to be in the monopoly. But you know, as these things go, it's like, I think if it goes well in the monopoly, then they'll probably want more. If it doesn't, then that'll probably be it, right? But I think, you know, the people I've talked to at this festival, I think people are excited about these kinds of beer. I think there's lots of people in Sweden who really appreciate kind of a higher end, you know, beer that has some really nice complexity to it. And so I think there are people that are going to really like this here.
Yeah, and for me, I almost not call it sour beers, but I don't know actually what to call it, because sour beers
it's so
used to
hard.
be much more extreme to me.
Well, and I think that is one of the problems that we had, right? Is people were too extreme with this stuff. And so if you're buying a big bottle and not drinking it because it's too sour, then you're like, well, why would I buy another big bottle of this?
Then it's waste, of course.
But yeah, my hope is that, you know, we end up with with kind of an ongoing partnership here in Sweden. I think it's a very cool market. I think there are some really good beers here. There's a good beer culture. But I think there's opportunity for some beers in this kind of specific niche that we have that I think people will appreciate. And I've seen out here today that people do appreciate.
Yeah. But do you need like to talk to them and explain a little bit about the beer?
You know, sometimes I think certainly like this one, right? The red wine grape one requires a little more explaining than the stout, right? I think this stout with bourbon barrels is something people understand.
Yeah, of course.
And so I think, you know, we'll see. Again, so we sent 2 stouts and a barley wine to the monopoly, and then there's a few cases of these sour beers around at, you know, some of these bars. But I think it's hopefully people try them, people like them, come back for more, and we get to continue. Partly because I want to come back.
You want to come back, yeah. But
I'll just pour a small one of this one. This is a big beer, and we've had a few.
Big bowl as well. But you say that this Reno is your like flagship beer, as it's recurring.
So sort of, yeah. It's. I think it's the only beer that we've made every year.
Yeah.
But again, we release beers 4 times a year, and it's like 4 or 5 new beers every time, and so the most flagship beer that we have would be Rhino Suit, but that would be a seasonal for anybody else because it comes out once a year in November. And so we have this once a year beer, and it's basically as close to a consistent offering as we have. So this last one that I just poured for you is an Imperial Oatmeal Stout. So it does not have lactose in it. So it's a little bit less sweet, more dark chocolate. And then this one was actually aged twice in bourbon barrels. So first we aged it in Henry McKenna 10-year barrels, and then we did another year in Elijah Craig 8-year barrels. So this beer was like 2.5 years in the making, but each time you put it in the barrel, you get more whiskey character. Yeah. And so this one has some, I think it's just a great display of whiskey character.
But do you reuse your barrels, or is it only like first beer pour in every barrel? Or?
Yeah, so the sour beers are sort of all in neutral, like wine barrels, like former wine barrels. You don't get wine flavor out of them. You just get some oak and a little bit of like a porous aging vessel. But the bourbon barrels, we're trying to get the bourbon. And so you use them once, and the bourbon's gone. And so it's like every time it's a new barrel. Well, new to us, but straight from the facility. And so this beer, obviously, it's an expensive beer to make because you buy 2 sets of bourbon barrels, and we get those from, the distilleries in Kentucky direct, and they're wet when they arrive. So sometimes you can turn them upside down and you can get a little bit of whiskey out of them.
I can imagine.
But yeah, you always pick up a little bit of alcohol percent and some really nice oak and bourbon flavor on this. Just the aroma on this, I think, is pretty incredible for the bourbon there. And this is a huge beer. This is 15%.
But it doesn't.
But it doesn't burn.
No, it's not easy drinking, I would say, but it's not boozy at all. It's not boozy. I mean, if you have another Narval, for example, from Sierra Nevada, it's more booze punch in it.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah, and part of that is the aging, and just like really trying to be balanced with these things. But this is one of my favorites.
Delicious.
It's really good.
Delicious.
And this one will also be in the Monopoly. I think this one will be in December.
And that one will be rather expensive, I think. But I mean, you can easily share this one 4 or 5 guys.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
It should be sharing.
These ones will be a little bit cheaper.
Of course.
And then these are, I think, will be more expensive. But
so look.
But again, it's meant to be you have a glass. You don't need to have 4 of them, right? So I'm not sure you could have 4 of them if you wanted to.
Then this might be the last Alesong you're drinking.
Yeah, exactly.
So looking ahead, what's next? I mean, you hope to increase on the export markets, but can you deliver a higher volume than you do today? You do have capacity, or?
So we do have capacity to do more volume for sure. I think high volume for us is all relative, right? So to give you some context. We were at the lunch, we did a lunch with all the other U.S. breweries yesterday at a Portal restaurant, which was incredible. They do such a good job there.
They have a great pairing with all the beers and
such a delicious lunch. Yeah. And, we're sitting there with Allagash, that's about 100,000 barrels, and Sierra Nevada, which I think is like 3 or 4 million barrels. And then the really small breweries there were like 2,000 or 3,000 barrels. Alesong is like 400 barrels. Okay. So we're very, very small. Yeah. But we do have capacity to expand. And, sending a lot of beer to Sweden would be, an extra 30 or 40 barrels probably, right? So we're totally able to do that. We could probably double our volume and be totally fine. We would love to do that. But I don't think any of us wants to be a huge brewery. Nope. We're very happy to be small. Again, not to use these words that don't mean anything, but very artisan, so that we can touch and taste and feel every beer that comes out, right? It's not just a mass-produced factory.
It's not an industry.
Yes.
It should not be an industry.
Right. It's not a factory. And don't get me wrong. I think it's incredible that Sierra Nevada, no matter where you drink it, no matter how old it is, it tastes the same. They do such an incredible job with that beer. I mean, that's a feat of engineering. And, everything is so just well controlled, right, in the process. And it's awesome. That's not what we do, but that is awesome.
No, of course not.
And so we're just sort of like a different thing, but it's still, so much respect for that. And I think for us, we will always be small, but hopefully, we'd love to grow a little bit and sell in more of these. Export, I think, is really interesting for us because I think, again, we have a unique product that stands up well to shipping.
Yeah, it's true.
And certainly also at a higher price point, shipping can make more sense than it does if it's, shipping a cheap beer makes it an expensive beer.
Yeah.
Shipping an expensive beer makes it a little more expensive.
True, and there's bottles. I mean, I'm working with logistics, so I know that
it's heavy.
It should be a pain point, actually.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of, I'm sure, why the monopoly wants the cans, but.
But Doug, anyway, really nice to have you on the show, and
no, I appreciate
your
it.
Sweden listeners or anywhere listeners, if you see a Alesong bottle, I can assure you it's worth the money.
Yeah, they're very delicious. I'll just give you a quick the dates. The Rhino Suit in cans. This is our stout in cans. Will be November 21st in the Monopoly, and then the first week of December we have a barley wine aged in bourbon barrels with cinnamon and vanilla, and then this stout that we just had that was aged twice in bourbon barrels. Those will both be the first week of December in the Monopoly. So we're excited to be here. Hopefully you guys try it and like it.
That would be perfect for the New Year's Eve.
Yeah, exactly. They're good winter beers.
Yeah, perfect winter beers.
Very good winter beer.
A bit warming as well.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, and cheers.
Right on. Cheers.